Hi guys, today I wanted to talk to you about why some stylists don't like this body type techniques. Specifically, I talk about David Kibbe technique. I have a huge series on my channel. I'm gonna leave the link down below, but we're gonna just look in general. Many of them also don't like 12 season color analysis or 4 season color analysis. I also heard that. Probably I'm not gonna talk too much about colors now, but I'm gonna talk more about body types and Kibbe body types because I just heard several stylists what they talk about it and what misconceptions they have about all that. So first thing I wanted to tell you is that I've seen one fashion designer who talked about that she heard about Kibbe and she had been asked about that a lot. And then she said that she just couldn't find herself in there because top is smaller than the bottom or the bottom is smaller than the top. She's not kind of hourglass and she's not straight. So she assumes that she's not belonging to any types. Of course, that shows me that just this person doesn't know actually what Kibbe image identity is actually about, because it has nothing to do with figures. You can consider some shapes, of course. It adds to that, but you have to have a vision of proportions and the overall look and the face, the vibe, and how the person talks, how she walks. You should see the relative angularity. You should see the shortness or elongation of the limbs. You have to train your eyes to see what would be more classic and moderate proportion, what would be not moderate proportion, and then that's a lot of work. So I totally understand them. It's not easy for me too, but I just didn't have another choice. As I said in one of my last videos, some people, they just have a different way of figuring that out, which is also great. But to be objective about this stylist or that stylist, I just need to see their work. I just need to see the results of their work, because some of the stylists that I see, they talk a lot about style. They're professional stylists with diploma and stuff. But then when you see their work, they're just doing something with the person and sometimes it's just so much not there. It's created for absolutely different frame. It's very cool, modern, and it's very unusual shapes. It's very like squarish here and rounded here and sparkling here. Super coolish. But at the same time, it's just not for that person. This person is not gonna wear that, you know? Sometimes it happens. And when I see that, then I understand. Some stylists though, they are really much on point, but then they have that kind of intuition and a lot of time spent for looking, I think. So they kind of have it already as their knowledge. So in this case, they don't even have to know about just 13 types. They're even further than that. They can see each person individually and then they can create that look on them. But that's the best of the best, I think. So they're already above that. But some stylists, I think they're just a bit below that because they still don't have that perfect vision for every type. So sometimes it just works. It just fits their vision and the body that they work with, like it matches. So that works great. And then this person looks amazing. And of course, some grooming, some hair color, some haircut, always look slightly fresher. Great makeup, professional makeup, you look great, okay? But sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes they're more complicated situations. There are some bodies that are not usual, unusual proportions. So they don't wanna show this work. She's just super tiny, what I can do? She's just very tiny but wide. And there are several explanations that I have for these stylists who don't know much about that. Is that first, that Kibbe doesn't use test anymore. Yes, he created that test for us to maybe help us a little bit, but still he doesn't use the test anymore because many people just get confused so much about all those parameters and they get really stuck on the numbers, on measurements, on figures, on hourglass and things like that, besides of looking at the overall picture. Because if he says in the test, your rib cage, how narrow, how wide it is, you don't measure it and compare it to your friend's rib cage and whose rib cage is smaller or larger. He means it's small comparing to the rest of the parts of your body. Is your rib cage small or wide comparing to your arms, your length, your elongation, your legs, your hips, your face, your neck, your shoulders, and so on and so on. But to say that, I totally agree, it's not that easy. You need to train your eyes, you need to try to be a bit more objective about yourself and things like that. You need to spend some time for that. Of course, it's a journey. You're not figuring that out over the night. However, I've seen some women who know themselves very much, so they go, oh, yeah, I'm that type. No doubt. Also, David sometimes can use these words like hourglass with waspish waist. And for some people it can be a bit misleading. So they think, oh, waspish waist. No, that's not me for sure. But maybe they are in this type. It's just one of the characteristics that is not matching, the rest is matching. Also, I do understand that it's very rare that people are gonna spend so much time to understand 13 essences, 13 bone structures, proportions, blah, 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 all those things. It's just for some people it's just very complicated. So I do understand that. Another interesting story, I've seen one stylist, his blog, and somebody asked him about kibbe types and he said, oh, I just don't understand anything about bone structure, about these types. I just see, he says, I just see. Then when I looked at his work, most of it is great, very good, but some of it still. As soon as they encounter somebody who just doesn't fit to that more or less moderate height, proportions, like more or less moderate, as soon as it's a little bit less usual, doesn't work. I've seen this guy was dressing up one gamine lady. She was like 50 something or 60 something, tiny, straight, sharp bones, narrow shoulders, very thin face, and he was dressing her up in a long maxi skirt, atlas fabric with huge flowers, as if she was wearing a box, and she couldn't pull off that vertical line very well, so she looked even tinier in that. Yeah, it looked very interesting and like modern and like wow, but at the same time, it's just how is she gonna walk like that and feel just in her own skin? Some women, they just don't want to attract too much attention. They just want to be comfortable and kind of chic in their own skin. So that would not attract attention as something extra avant-garde. Maybe their clothes to fit their body. So when they walk, nothing kind of stands out. I know many women who have this goal. And I actually have this goal. So also I noticed that every stylist kind of have a formula on how he works with this or that person. And some stylists, they already know more or less which clothes items are more or less for everybody, more or less universal. So they can basically change a couple of things and that probably would work on every person. So they just choose different color combinations and change here or here. But the basic, that their formula is still in work. And I noticed that many stylists, it just depends on what they personally are influenced by and also how they are dressed and their journey in fashion also depends on that. So this is how they dress their clients. So that's what I also see. And I think it depends on the vision of a stylist. Some stylists, they know a lot of information about history of fashion. And they just have tons of knowledge, a lot of knowledge, and they know many women, many kinds of different women. So they're very inclusive, so they can actually dress many women very differently. But then there are also some stylists, they slightly scared to work with unusual bodies. So they mostly take somebody like modelish. It's the safest for them to work with a tall girl, model parameters, kind of like modelish, flamboyant, natural if we talk about kibbe. So that is the safest for them. She's groomed, everything is just very polished and makeup and stuff. When they do that, that just looks nice. But some of them, they are scared to work with somebody who is not very regular looking. Also, a lot of stylists, they don't understand that the person has essence, so they dress her up in a certain vibe. Some stylists, they really like to dress somebody up in a very glamorous and like very va-va-voom style, like Sophia Loren. Vintage, ornateness, like luxury, like expensive, going out for red carpet. This is how they want to make over to work, like that she psychologically just changes her mind and she would be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I can look like that, Very big change. But then on some women it just doesn't work. It looks clownish, but on some women it works perfectly. Or some stylists, they just do that slightly slouchy and casual look, super modern, like Balenciaga style. Teenage, like, we need to modernize you a little bit. So they modernize everyone, even if it's a woman 60 plus, but they modernize her in a slightly funny way. Not that she would feel comfortable in. I think it should blend so much, the way she talks, the way she moves. I think it should really blend. Another stylist that I've seen, he is positioning himself as a very educated stylist, and actually he's worked a lot with celebrities, with magazines. He was styling many other people, many different kind of bodies, so he has a huge experience in that. So he's really teaching others how to be a stylist. But then I do see that he has a very certain taste in that. So he hates kibbe types, because he said something like that there's a romantic, there's a dramatic, and then they have romantic that always have to wear dresses, and then they have dramatic that always have to wear men's suits. This is not kibbe system. Romantics can wear suits, is just would sit a little bit different on their figure just because they have some prominent parts of their body. So it's not gonna lie, like regular men's suits is not gonna lie on their body like for a more straight woman or more elongated. That's, everybody can understand that, even that stylist. If I would talk to him, and I would like to talk to him and show him what that actually is, and I think there are loads of points that he would agree with me. He would just probably say, oh, I just have a vision, so I just don't want to get these old categories in my head. I just have a vision, which is okay, no problem. If he can work with big variety of different kinds of bodies, that's perfect, that's just great. And also he hates color analysis, and also I can understand why. Also, like, everybody has very different colorations, and it's not about colors anymore and things like that. And which is interesting that he says that train your vision is the most important thing. If your eyes are trained, in some time you will be seeing what looks cool and what doesn't. And if your eyes are not trained, or trained with some bad examples, that you're not gonna become that. Which sounds very smart, actually. That's great. But then he said that on his site, he's uploading pictures of different magazines, high fashion. So just to help us to train our eyes, to start seeing this. And when I looked at that, it was actually very narrow aesthetic-wise. So he's a huge fan of Balenciaga, and this is approximately the vibe that I could see all over there, like very pretty dark and slightly I don't care-ish vibe, strange, irregular, a lot of unisex, a lot of men looks like women, women look like men, a lot of ugliness, like ugly beauty, you know, it's like one of the trends. But I could see this is just such a narrow vision. It's his personal viewpoint on how things should be, because I think this is how he feels. So he's projecting that, and he likes that. He found himself in that. But the vibe of this aesthetic is just so narrow. And then I decided to check the high fashion magazines pictures from different sources, just to see the whole picture. And I was looking and looking. There are so many other presented aesthetics in there that he never uses for himself to educate his students. He doesn't see this aesthetic. It's not existing for him. He lives in his own world, which is great, because, you know, some people, like, when you really find yourself in your own world with your own soundtrack playing, you know, that is amazing. You finally found your home universe. You finally feel like you can say your own word. You finally feel like you don't have to compete with anyone else. You are you. I think that is great. Just in general, that is great. It's just that one little out point, that it's not like you can't train your eyes just with that, just with that narrow vision aesthetic. And the music they're playing there, it's slightly depressive. It is ignoring the basics very much. It is ignoring something simple, understandable, something happy. It is ignoring some fairy tale. It's ignoring some cuteness. It's ignoring some vintage things. It's ignoring some simple elegance. It doesn't mean that everybody has to look elegant. Nobody has to, but it just depends on how many aesthetics you can include when you're operating this. I think that is more important, because you can't ignore there's so many people with so many different aesthetics. Now I'm gonna throw in my own opinion as just a person. Aesthetic can be more healthy and unhealthy, from my viewpoint. Can be more light, kind, and therapeutic, and more dragging you down a little bit. I do think so, but it's still aesthetic. I understand that. It's still art. Art just can be on a tone scale of emotions. It can be different tones. It can be in a beautiful mode of serenity, or it can be in anger, or it can be in apathy. you know, all those things. So that aesthetic that he was presenting was very apathetic to me personally. So I felt worse just looking at that. First, my thought was, if it's all that high fashion is about, I'm not part of it then. Another stylist that I know who knows about kibbe is he sometimes uses the 5 main types of kibbe. He likes that, but he doesn't go too deep, and he doesn't use those softer versions, sharper versions. He doesn't use that. He uses 5 main types: dramatic, romantic, natural, gamine, and classic. And also he retyping some of the kibbe types. So, and he also doesn't rely on the height, so he's just has his own vision, but he likes the names, the aesthetics probably of all of them. And what actually got me, probably he was one of the first ones when I heard about kibbe first, when I didn't know anything about it. So probably this is how he got me to actually kibbe, because many years ago I started watching videos on YouTube about fashion just to understand myself more and my style, and I couldn't find it. I was going from one person to another, and then there was one guy who was talking about kibbe, and then he showed Audrey tattoo picture, and he said her type is called gamine. She's a combination of opposites. So in this kind of dress, she looks a little bit like a teenager, and this kind of like, this is when things started getting together in my head. So this is how I personally got into that. Another great stylist of celebrities, I don't know what she thinks about the body types, but of course I think she doesn't use any of these techniques. She has her own, but she worked as an assistant to one of the very famous editors of the magazines, of high fashion magazines. So you can imagine how much experience people like that have in that area. So she was very lucky to have that. And of course, having all that experience, being there morning till night, being in fashion morning till night. And then she started working with real celebrities and dressing them up for the red carpet, and not only, which is slightly more complicated, because when you're dressing models, that's a one thing. They mostly have same kind of a vertical line, same kind of a bone structure, so it's kind of easier to dress them up. But then when you encounter the celebrities, actors, singers, they all can be like from tiny to very tall, and from very soft to very dry and skinny. So they really have to know their deal to actually work with these people. And there's a lot of extra knowledge you have to have in order to dress them up so they would look chic and elegant and whatever your goal is. But at the same time, it would really match. Because not everything that looks great on a model who is like 5'11" on a girl who's 5'2". So their goal becomes a bit more complicated, because they need to dress up a character and they need to balance the proportions at the same time. So that would not look super funny. Also, every red carpet event, or every event just in general for a famous person, of course every famous person, as far as there's loads of pressure on them, everybody's taking pictures and people can just really offend them, they really thinking through their look, how they should look. But every event has its own goal. There's a certain ball that everybody's dressing up to surprise. Then when they surprise people, so some people would say, oh my god, how ugly is that? Or some people would say, yeah, I love it, that's so original. But it's just attention that matters. Then a lot of attention, everybody's writing about this, how ugly that is, how beautiful that is, doesn't matter. Loads of money, loads of new attention. And then these stars can be invited for something else to attract even more attention, you know, like money and attention, it's very close to each other. So it's very often that sometimes they have those goals. There can be different goals, just to be as elegant as possible. I think for Oscars, that would be the goal probably, to look just elegant and timeless and maybe even slightly old-fashioned, like keep that old-fashioned tradition. Even though it's all changing lately, but I still think that they try to keep that tradition in. So everybody looks a little bit different in that regular elegant style. So they need to think this through and also be original, and also choose something that would look great on this particular star, and also be their character. What would be the length? What would be the outfit? What would be the fabric? How fabric is gonna look? What if it's gonna be all wrinkled after she's down? All those little details, they think through that. And this stylist, of course, I think she already has some ready decisions just in case. just because of the experience. She worked with so many people, she dressed them up, and you know, you just, after some experience, you already have some in case, like safe decisions, just in case something goes wrong. But then I think they experiment and they have access to many clothes pieces, first of all, and they rehearse a lot. And then she said that I'm looking at the pictures, many pictures of this star, and then we go over what we like the most, what are the best, and then she's trying to analyze why she likes that. And then after she analyzes that, she is trying to create something similar to that, or they look other celebrities or other masterpieces of when somebody dressed in the past, and they try to do a replica on that. So they try to rethink that, create something new and interesting, but to have that reference, you know, a base for their decision. So this is what also she's doing. And then she said, we're trying this and that, we're combining that, and then we see if that works or not. We're making pictures, next day we look at it again, we get back, we try it differently, something works, something doesn't, and then she has a vision, and then she explains it somehow to herself, like, yeah, this dress is gonna work, but then on the hair, untidy, like, yeah, let's pull it back, too open neck, let's close the neck a little bit, yeah, and we just need something more relaxed. You know, so this is what kind of vision they have, and they work with each one individually, and they just get this knowledge after a lot of years of practice and just visualizing different things. And of course they know all the latest trends, so they also follow that. So maybe some stylists that are complaining about kibbe, they just know that if they have a vision, that's great, but there's still something new that they might get from that. All right, that's it. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I hope you liked the video. Please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Subscribe on my Pinterest for 13 boards as an inspiration for the body types. Also, you can subscribe on my Instagram. All the links I'm gonna leave down below. Also, you can become my sponsor or subscribe on my Patreon for some exclusive videos, some early access to these videos, and just if you want to support me and my channel. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.